Good evening and welcome, people. So, I can never quite catch it with the intro. And I'm a bit lopsided to one side of the screen because I've kind of got to make me smaller once we start actually really getting into what this video is about. Now, as it states, it's about MotoGP21. I obviously put that there so it'll lock people in first, but it's actually important. Yeah, it's to do with my systems, but it's also for people that want to use any other game with a different controller and they don't want to use a gamepad because we're being monopolised by Microsoft and everyone else. So this one is a bit of a weird one. To start off with, I'm just going to plain and simply show people that have an HS3 or an HS2 or an HS1. I'm not going to make an HS4. I'm knocking that idea on the head. Although I hate the fact that my bloody HS2 and HS3 are the same names as these stupid English trains. Really? I came up with the name first. Anyhow, point being, I'm going to basically show that in order to use X360ce to use a game with a controller other than the gamepad, you need to use something like X360ce. And the latest version is really good, but it has a few problems with certain software. So, after a terrible day yesterday where I was supposed to get this system tested, finished, packed and shipped today, because I couldn't finish testing yesterday because of bloody Microsoft and everything, I decided to sort it out last night, got it figured, so I'm now making the video tonight. Right, point being, you need to calibrate any controller before you use X360, and without that calibration, X360 can be all over the place. So I'm just going to go through the basics of my system, but you can use it for any steering wheel or any joystick or any other kind of component that you want to use. It's the same principle, and that's the main thing that matters. So we're going to go through that. So first thing you need to do is basically, if you don't know where your Windows game controller calibration is, you open Control Panel and you look for devices and printers. Then you'll find in basically the first devices line at the top, you can see I've got my Hs3 Street Fighter Pro. I right click and then you'll see the first thing you can go for is game controller settings. Oh, you know what? I'm showing you this and I forgot to make myself smaller. So I'm going to shut my mouth and make myself smaller. Here we go. Right, so this is your control panel, and in devices, I'm still in the way, aren't I? This is my controller here, Hs3 Street Fighter Pro. Right click on, and at the very first option at the top, it's game controller settings. Then it will bring up this window, so I can close this off now. We'll bring up this, and let's put it in the center so you can see it. It shows my controller inputs, and on this one you go down to properties. So here it says properties, click on properties. Here you can see the inputs you have on your system. I was down on the handlebars at the time, and these are your axis, and all the dots are your digital inputs that the device has. it will always show exactly what inputs your device is showing and no other ones. So I've got 32 digital inputs, I've got a hat switch input, and altogether I actually have 8 axes, but I've only got 4 axes wired up. So then basically what you'll do is, when you first plug it in, you're going to want to calibrate it, and every once in a while it's best to calibrate your system. So I'm just trying to click something off of another window. So what you want to do is go to settings, click settings, hit reset to default, and then calibrate. Then you get the next window come up, click next. Now you can either click next using the mouse or a button on your controller. I suggest using a button on the controller to ensure that the program is actually reading from the controller. So now I'm going to press the button on my controller. Right, now you're seeing a window that is seeing my controller axis for the X axis. I do not have a Y, so if you can just see right at the top there's a little cross. Now the reason that's staying there is because I do not have a Y axis connected. I don't need it, so it will keep that there. If there was a Y axis and it was centered, that cross would be in the center, so you don't have to worry about it being at the top. If you're not using the Y axis, it won't be red, so it will simply stay straight at the top. Does not affect anything. You can click the display raw data, that will show you where the data is. Now I have a 0 to 400 to 4096 points, so mine's roughly going to be in the center of that measurement. Once I know it's centered and it looks visually centered, I press a button, I go on to my next axis. Now things will look weird with my controller because I have to have certain measurements, and house sensors, transducers, potentiometers, all different ways of measuring 0 to a certain degree have a different way of functioning. And there's certain reasons why you have to have a certain amount of movement. So forget about the spacing and how if it goes to the top or not. When you calibrate, it will always look wrong. It's not until the next time you look, you'll see it functions 100%. But when you're calibrating, it doesn't look correct, but it will be. So now it's asking me, and I know my Z-axis is my throttle, so I need to twist my throttle. So I twist my throttle, and as you can see, it's not going all the way. That doesn't matter. What it's doing is reading a certain measurement that it wants and it can read. But when it's calibrated, you'll have full 0 to 100%. It doesn't matter what's showing on the screen. Once it's initiated, it will be 100%. So now you've calibrated that, you go on to the next one. This is the one that's interesting because I've got hydraulic brakes. Depending on the pressure you apply, so I can pull the lever with so much pressure and it will move the line a lot further. So what I'll show you is I'll pull it only so much. Now I've pulled it a very small amount. That will mean when I'm riding and I apply the brake, it'll be very, very sharp because I only moved a small amount. But if I squeeze it hard, that means I get really quick brakes, so really sharp brakes. Now if I press it harder, so I'm really pulling on the lever, that will be the measurement that Windows sees, and it will take that as the end of braking line. That makes the brakes softer, not so strong, not so sharp. So you can actually, through calibration, adjust the strength of your brakes depending on the strength of your hand and how you ride and how quickly you react to riding. So it's actually a very tunable through the software component, and it wasn't until I really studied it and started working on it. It's brilliant. It's sorry to say it myself, but it does mean you can tune the brake to fit yourself, and the levers all have leverage switches, so you've got 6 settings on the lever as to the distance from the bars to the grip. That changes the strength of your hand as well, because the nearer it is to the bar, the more force you have, the sharper the brakes will be as well. So you can play around purely in calibration. So that's that point. Now press the button again, go on to clutch. Clutch is plain and simply forward, back, do it a couple of times, press the button. This system doesn't have foot controls, so I'm not going to do a rear brake calibration, but it's the same principle as the front brake. You can adjust it through calibration. And now we can see, I'll apply. I've got my axis for steering, I've got my front brake. As you can see, even though it didn't look like the bar was going all the way to the end when I calibrated, now you can see all go to the end with the movement. It's just purely in calibration, doesn't look like that. So that's the first stage of setting up any controller, but specifically with the Hs3 and front and rear brakes. For the hydraulics, you can tune the hydraulic brakes during calibration. It's one of those things you need to play with. It's not a toy. It's made for, if you're riding a real bike, you spend hours upon hours tuning each component to the way you ride. It's the same thing. Right, so that's that done. Let's get calibration out of the way. Okay, so now I'm going to basically, I'm going to do it in GPBikes, so you can also see, and this is for those that use GPBikes. So basically, those that use milestone games, you can't do this. Or any other game like TT Isle of Man. And Kilotone and Black Ben really lied about the VR and real controllers. So, if you're using GPBikes, you've got exactly the same principle when you want to install your controller. And of course, the one beauty is with GPBikes you can use multiple controllers. It's also totally VR, so it's the only motorcycle simulation that there is that's got VR support fully, and it functions 100% and is amazing. It's addictive. I can't, once I start, I can't stop. Anyhow, the point is, here's how you now, like in Milestone game where you go to controller setup, this is your controller setup window. Now basically for your axis you go to calibration. And this is one thing you don't get with games. They don't say calibrate your controller to our software. No, you are lumbered and stuck with the simple fact, if you've got an old controller or someone else has got a new controller, the game won't be able to tell the difference. As far as the game's controlled, if you've got an old controller and there's an axis that's slightly off, it won't allow you to calibrate to get it correct. So you might be playing a game and you're not getting the enjoyment you should because they don't allow you to calibrate. Simple thing, because they build for consoles and consoles will not have calibration software. It's a console problem. So unfortunately for you guys with consoles, you'll never get GP bikes. I hope you don't, because it would ruin the simulation. It really would. Anyhow, point being, here's where we calibrate. And if you had 3 controllers in, you can click here and you can calibrate each individual one. As you can see, my axes are all over the place because I just calibrated. All I have to do now is simply move all my axes from 0 to 0. And now the point is, although I've already calibrated my brake and I want a certain strength, I don't have to recalibrate in Windows to change it in GPBikes. I can come back to the calibration window in GPBikes and change how strong it is or how weak it is in GPBikes without recalibrating in Windows. Try that with any other software or another controller. And it allows me to have a system that lets you decide. If you ride a little 125 and the brakes are not so sharp, you can tune the brakes to feel like a 125, and then you get on the MotoGP, you can make the brakes as sharp as it would be on a MotoGP. This is the difference of a little toy gamepad or a real controller. So we're starting to get there. Do not expect me to ride very good. It's actually, for me right now, I am exhausted and I've had right, so we can, you see, this is another thing. Okay, GPBikes, this is just for your controller setup. And you see, this says dead zone, linearly smooth, blah, blah. All of these, that's just for lean at the moment. But you've then got the same settings for every single input. So I change it to throttle. These, if I change them, will now be for the throttle. Now for the rear brake. So you can change every one of these to that for each individual axis. Then you've got your inputs, so your buttons. I better make sure, because I don't have foot controls on this. So if I'm not using foot controls, that really cocks me up. And then you've got a third one, and you can see, because it's VR ready, we have a VR reset button, so we know exactly where everything is. You know, graphics, miscellaneous, simulation. You've got all your aids. I'm leaving these like this for now because I'm just using handlebars without foot controls, and I don't have my body motion unit. So yeah, right, so let's get back out of there. Did I change something? Yeah, I was playing around, so discard changes. Right, so just to quickly show you, well, no, I'm not going to show you the amount of bikes that will actually take. We have iRun databases for GPBikes for the whole world. So I've got every bike mod, every track mod, every paint. So we've got over 200 bikes, over 200 tracks, literally over, well, it's just under 3,000 different suit bike paints and helmet paints. That's it. So it's helmets, suits and bike paints, 3 categories, but nearly 3,000, which is pretty phenomenal for a basically community-based simulation. So yeah, what I really want to do is show the difference between this and using the system, calibration, how it functions, and then we'll get into doing the same for milestone games and how to set up X360, but you need to see this so you get an understanding. So, I hate trying to do tutorial kind of stuff because I'm the worst. And I don't even know if I'm streaming. So this could be going on and I'm really not sure. But one thing I do know is I can't listen to music. I've only got background music on because I need something. So we're going to go testing. And my go-to test track is A1 Ring. It's on most race games. The only one it's not on is RIDE4, which I love. I love RIDE4. And I've got this Triumph on it that I love it. It's red and black. That's all it needs to be, red and black. Right, so I'm not even going to go into the garage. I'm going to quickly show people that haven't seen it. So this is our general window. No, it's not. This is our general window. So you can save all your saves, but front and rear, compounds, soft, medium, hard, wet. You've got so many, and this will tell you which ones, how many sets you've got left. You've got your tire pressures here, fuel load, PSI on the tyres, and this will also show you how it's running as you go. So you change your pressures, differences in brakes, your suspension, the amount you can do front and rear, drivetrain, and most of those you can really change different ways, and then others to do with geometry, your electronics, so all the normal stuff, but far more involved than milestone or anything like that. So we're just going to go to the track. See, I've been spoiled that I hate riding in 2D. I'm seriously used to riding in VR, so it's kind of I don't know, I've been spoiled, and it's like sitting here now, although I build these systems for people that don't have space and they want to sit on the couch and they've got a coffee table or they're sitting at a computer desk. It's all well and good, but I've spoiled myself sitting on the systems. And this R1M, it's so gorgeous. Anyhow, as I said, I am not going to be riding balls out or doing anything like that and crashing all the time. Plus, the bikes are in default. So, in GPBikes to start with as well, tyres are cold. Yeah. This is a real simulation, not a game. So, and yeah, I need to use a clutch. I'm going to shut up. I'm not going to go balls out, and I'll be quite honest, this bike is the latest 2020 Moto 2 from Manu, and it is wicked as hell. And I have noticed I've been getting it down, as you can just hear there. I haven't got the suspension set up as I need to, but in VR I keep planting it on its side. You see, I'm talking, not concentrating. But it's just an absolute pleasure. And she's tractable as well. I mean, if I knock it up, it's just, but if you can understand the one thing what I'm trying to explain about controls, so just leave it in the centre for a second, right? If you try to have precision with, I need to go at least third, with the gamepad, where say you want to really follow a line, I can almost follow a line with my hands off the bars. The difference is, in reality, I'm using the same controls as I would on a real bike. And it's just, but if you try and do this in a milestone game, you've got this where I can do this, these little amounts, the amount of time, the latency in the movement to the bike is a lot longer, and therefore it takes away the control. Oh no, I hit that brake a little bit too hard. Oh no, I scratched Sam's paint. Oh, stop, you bitch, stop, come on. You can't reset until it stops. Right. But anyhow, that's the point. If you look at the bars, so I can do the slightest of movements and you'll see the bars move at the very bottom with every little movement. In a milestone game, you can't get that. And the fact that I changed down to get to first instead of changing up. Although on MotoGP it's in fact you change up to get to first. They had to reverse it. Like I think Harley Davidson did it on the 750s. They also put it on the, they put the, what was it, the gear lever was on the right and the rear brake was on the left. That was the XR750. That was a weird one. Anyhow, this is not about riding, it's about setting up the controller. So I'm going to get out of here. Now we'll get into how to do X360. And it can be a nightmare, but I found a way to make it easy to fix. So let's bugger off out of there. My keyboard's all the way over there, so I've got the controller in the way. Right, return a bit. I still don't even know if I'm streaming. I'm getting a green light over there that says OK. That's about it. Come on. Right, you can exit out there. Yes. Right, so now we've got a black screen. Right. So I'm now this small window again, but I'm going to need to introduce you to X360ce. Now there is a link, or there should be a link, I'm sure I put it in there, for the latest version. But I've also packed in the RAR file an older version, as it turns out there can be some problems with certain games, especially MotoGP21. So, bummer that it was. It literally took me about 6 hours to figure out what the hell was going on. But I figured it. So, you're looking at this little bloody person. Right, I'm going to actually make myself a little bit bigger. Right, so I'm a little bit bigger. I can still actually bring up the software and show you. So, to start with, X360 allows you to, basically when you've got a game like RIDE4 or RIDE1, any MotoGP game, any milestone game, any game like TT Isle of Man that refuses to allow anything but a gamepad, this will make the program think that whatever controller you can have a thrustmaster, steering wheel, or a whatever. You can trick the program into thinking it's a gamepad. So this is part of what this is for. That's why it's going to be boring. But if you want to learn something, you're going to get bored bloody well doing it. I'll try and make it a little more jovial and whatever, but you have to learn. So, start with X360ce 4.17 is the latest. Now, I'm sure there are people running on 32-bit systems. So this is really for 64-bit. If you Google X360ce, you'll get to the site, and I will actually put a link in there and maybe upload to my server some copies of it for 32-bit. But right now I've only got 64-bit. So sorry about that. Not ignorance, just flow of what I've got to do in my life. But I will actually do something with 32-bit and put them on my server. I've got a big database for GPBikes, but also for X360 and some other stuff. So, I'll get round to that. Point being, there should be a link in description of this stream. You can download that and you can use that. It says MotoGP21, that's just as an example, but you can use that for any game, but there is a different way to use it for different games, which is what I'm now going to explain, because it can be simple as hell, or it can be a bit more of a pain. This is what we're getting to. So, for my own indulgence, I'm going to put the background music on for me. Otherwise, I'm kind of sitting here yakking, and it sounds like I'm yakking to myself because I can't see if anyone's watching or what's going on. So, at the end of the day, it's I'm trying to figure out how to start this, because I don't plan my stuff. I like, I think I'll make a tutorial. I don't really plan it out. A lot of people, they write out pages and pages of, I'm going to do a video. Blah, 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 blah. I haven't done any of that. So I'm trying to think. I did have an idea. It kind of went out the window because I did a load of emails. So I kind of lost the idea I was going to have. So bear with me. Right, okay, first off, you need to see what X360 is. So best way to do it, the package you can get from me is a multiple package, which means that it's got the old version and the new version, which means you'll be enabled to do basically any game. Whereas if you just get the latest one and use it as it states it can be used, it might not function. And I'll explain this in a bit. So, I'm going to open, basically, this is my Windows Explorer. And if I go to the folder, I always download, so if you download a program from me, when I say where you've downloaded it to, it could be in your download folder or your desktop, wherever you download it to. When I say where you download it to, that's what I mean. Saves me having to explain it every bloody time. But basically, X360 MotoGP21. So I've got a RAR file that basically is MotoGP21 x360ce 4.17. Now, when you download that file and you extract it, it'll give you a folder that will then have these 6, so 5 files, 1 folder. The first one is a TXT, so a text file that simply tells you where you're then going to actually, if you need to do so, put the EXE. Otherwise, you can actually use this as a raw component without any more work. i.e., what you can do is you extract the folder, you then simply open it, so it's going to open as a global file and not just one program. So you'll click on it and you'll come up with this. This now is where you would program your controller, and this is set right now as global, so you can actually leave this open on your desktop, and that's the way you use it. You leave it open, or you can push it to another screen. I've got 3 screens, so I normally just push it to another screen, and while you're in game you can actually adjust things in game with it open. But the point is, this is global, so you don't have to make it just for one game. This means that when it's open, it'll work with any game you've got, but there are limitations, and this is the point that I'm going to get to. So right now you've got it open, and when you look at it, you can see that each point, as I click on any of these, it will illuminate, show what it is. But it's also the same as here. So if I say button A and I press record, once I record, I'll press button A and it illuminates on the actual instrument, showing you that whatever button you press, and it's the same for axis. So I've got that. So now I want to do, say, my throttle. I'll say record, and I'll twist my throttle, and now you can see I've got my throttle. As I actuate it, it actuates, and it's a very simple but absolutely perfect program, and that will work globally. As long as it's open, it'll work with any program. So if you know what controller you've got, and you know that's a throttle, that's a brake, that's a clutch, that's steering, that's your A, that's your B, what you decide is comfortable for you to emulate as being a gamepad, you've got it. And as long as it's open, when you start the game you want to play, you simply go to the settings in the game and set it up like you would with the gamepad using your controller. But I hope you understand the simplicity of it. That's doing it globally. This is where we get to programs like, so you do actually have to start that before you start a game. So you start it before you start a game, and you leave it open. You don't minimize it, leave it open. If you've only got one monitor, then just leave it open and then start the game. And then you'll have to do Alt-Tab to go out of it to do adjustments, and then go back to the game. And then if you want to adjust like steering and that, which is normally the only one you need to, you Alt-Tab, get back to that screen, adjust the steering measurements, then go back to the game. And you can do that, but leave it open, but you have to start it first. Now, it might work to start with. This is where it gets fun, and where it had me for 6 hours headbutting the wall with MotoGP21 and RIDE4. So, and I've been doing this years, but with each version of X360, things change. So, yesterday, because of MotoGP21 and me needing to get this system to Harry, Danke Harry, vielen Dank. He's been patient because, COVID has caused massive delays. I'm talking 9 months and more. Anyhow, RIDE4 is different from MotoGP21, and RIDE4 is different from RIDE3 using X360. So, boils down to the old version, and this is why I packed the old version with mine, and I'm going to now show you. So, you basically have here on the right, you can see a folder that says X360 old, and when you get the latest version, this one that I'm now marking is 4.17, okay? It doesn't need the INI or the DLLs. It doesn't need these files, and it can't make them. So when you get basic 4.17, you only get the exe file, and with most games you don't need it. You don't need the INI or the DLLs. But with milestone games, to stop them from fluctuating with input signal, you do. So what I mean is, I can open it globally and start RIDE4, and it will run. I'll do 2 laps, and then all of a sudden I'm coming around a corner and my bike just carries on, and I've got no gear change, I've got no input whatsoever, and I'm looking at X360 and I can see I'm doing this, and there's no inputs. I'm pressing buttons, no inputs are registering. And I'm like, is the electronic board of my controller that I've just soldered and made, is there a defect? Is there a problem? And I'm thinking it's my error. I've damaged the board. So I've unwired it, I've pulled it apart, I've measured all the points. It's perfect. Put it all back together. Try MotoGP21. The same. I do about 2 laps and sometimes only 1 lap, and just controls shut off. And I'm like, what the hell? So I start thinking of different things, and I think, okay, it's a new version. I go back to the 4.15. It was better. It kind of worked better, but then it did the same. So I went back to a version where I'd actually had this kind of problem before, which was 4.15 with the INI and the DLLs, and it worked with RIDE4 globally. So it didn't have to be in the install file for RIDE4. Whereas before you had to put the old one in the install file folder. It does get complicated. Eventually I found out that RIDE4 can do a global X360 as long as the INI and the DLLs are there. But MotoGP21, you have to put 4.17 plus the INI and the DLLs in the install folder, but in the exact right location, which is not easy to find. So yeah, it took me about 6 hours, but I found it in the end. So I do have a link, and it will tell you exactly where to put it. So at the end of the day, you can quite simply say, download the file, the RAR file. Wherever you downloaded it, you simply click on the exe, open it, set your controller up as is, leave it open your game and see if it works, and if it doesn't cut out after only a short amount of time. And that was the problem. It functioned, but only for a period of time. Now, I've no idea what that means. I am not a programmer, but that was the problem. But the cure is, if it's a problem in the game, you need to find where the game's main exe is. And if it's a 32-bit game, I don't know if this will work, but a 64-bit game basically will have a Win64 folder. And I'll basically show you on the tree. So let's say you want to do it now for MotoGP 21. You're going to see here, go in MotoGP, that's the install folder on Steam Apps Common. So that's the original one. But you can see, once again, they always seem to do this in Steam games. It says MotoGP21, then there'll be another one called the same name, which I believe is a reason for, this is kind of the 32-bit, then this is 64-bit, then it's binaries, Win64, and that's where you put, and as you can see, I've got them in here. I've got the 4 files, and that means I can actually use MotoGP21 with a real controller, and it doesn't cut out, and I don't go against the wall and have a headache. So, that all bloody said, it's time to put it to the test, isn't it? So, right, that means I've got to do, I actually do need to go to the loo though. So first off, so I can show this, I should have left that open, because the one thing is you're going to have to always navigate, and I don't recommend doing a shortcut. You will always actually have to navigate to the folder where you have that in. I go binaries, Win64. No, that's the wrong one. Where did I go wrong? Oh no, I went engine. I wanted binaries, Win64. Okay, so for MotoGP21, I'd have to actually open Windows Explorer, find that file. I don't recommend putting a link to your desktop. And for me, it's a bitch actually, because I run 4K. I've got 50-inch screens. When I don't change the properties, it's so freaking small. It's like this piddly little thing. I can't see it when it opens up. So I always have to do it. And if you're doing it, shit, lost the word. Bollocks. No, seriously, that's one of the, you ever had a thing where you, oh shit, what's it called? I can't think. Shortcut. See, I couldn't think of the word shortcut. Shit. No, do you ever have one of those things, moments where you like, what is it? No, a shortcut has to have its own properties set, but a shortcut will also not contain, because it's not sitting in the same folder as certain files. So shortcuts do not always work. So when you're using X360, it's best to open it directly from the folder it's in, that's got the DLLs and everything else. That's the best way to put it. Is my camera going in and out? Looks like focus has got shit. It's really weird. I tell you what, I have not been happy with these Logitechs, and the Brio wasn't cheap. The software sucks as well. But anyhow, listen. This is bad because I do need to pee. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is, that's MotoGP21. I'm going to then, because I want to show you the difference in usage. Where did I have it? Difference in usage when it comes to different programs. So that one's a global. So I'm going to open the global one. So that is globally open. So basically it's just in my downloads folder. It's not in a game installation folder. It's just sitting there. So it's not been put in a place for a purpose. It's just, as far as Windows is concerned, it's a controller. And this is the way Windows looks at it. It looks as X360 as an actual piece of hardware. This is the clever thing that the guy that wrote this, I really got to learn his name. I'll actually show you. I will now go to Windows Game Controllers, which is the Windows specific game controller programming, which I showed you before. It actually looks at this program. If you look at this, pull it over, it's seen as controller Xeon gamepad. It's seen it. It's called Xeon because that's the last gamepad I had, and it remembers and thinks it's a piece of hardware. And for someone to write some software that looks like hardware, I think that's brilliant. So anyhow, I've got it on the wrong side. I'm going to get rid of that. So this X360 that's here is open globally. I'm going to... Oh, ladies used to say powder their nose, but you can't say that anymore because people do white powdered Coke stuff. So I'm going to blow my nose. That sounds even the same, isn't it? I'm going to pee. Bugger it. I'll be as quick as possible.
Shut up and sit down.
Well, thank you for your patience. I drink far too much bloody coffee. I think I'm one of the worst. I must, without exaggeration, I probably have 10, 12 and more coffees a day. I'm like constant fluid, you know, but I love coffee. Anyhow, I mean, enjoying a whiskey now. So, right, so we're at the point. This is global X360ce. And we're going to hope that I can start RIDE4 and the controller not cut out. But it is in a global with the INI and the DLLs. And there's only two DLLs, 1.3 and 1.4. I've never had to use any others. I'll get to another fact about the INI in a little bit. It's a very important one, and that's why there's the X360 old. But first off, we need to show you that global and direct. So global is, it's basically in any folder, doesn't matter where, it will just work. You could probably actually do it in a MotoGP21 folder, leave it open, and it might work for RIDE4. I haven't actually tried that, I just thought of it. That's a good idea actually. But anyhow, we're going to try this one first. And no, because if the game needs it in its own folder, it wouldn't work. So no, scrap that idea. Right, let's start RIDE4. I'm going to slide this over to another screen. How am I going to put it on? That's chat. I've got three 50-inch screens and I can't decide where to put the little bloody thing. Right, so... But I do have like OBS there and everything everywhere. Right, I'm going to shrink myself again. That's the worst thing. I always forget. I'm trying to explain something. I forget to shrink myself, and I'm sitting there yakking away, covering what I'm trying to show. And it's not until an hour later I realise, and I think, oh my God, you dickhead. Right, so, okay, well, it's working. I pressed the button. Now, I bought this Triumph yesterday because it's the only thing that's close to the Moto 2. And you saw me ride the Moto 2 in GPBikes, and then it's the Moto 2 also in MotoGP21. So I bought this, but I've only ridden it a little bit around Brands Hatch. And there is not a A1 ring, which is my test track. So, I don't know. Oh bollocks! This is purely for testing if the controller cuts out or not, doing it globally, and for me to show you that. So at the end of the day, all we have to do is decide what we're going. And you see, I'm using the buttons on the controller. I've got it set up so I've got like my A, B, X, Y, my back and my start on this side. Then I've got my D-pad controls here, and then I've got all my analogues. Basically, I've got every switch that there is on the gamepad I've got here, but they're all perfectly there, and real brakes, real clutch, real throttle, real steering, even got a nice steering damper. So yeah, I'm quite happy chappy. So I'm not going to worry about racing. I don't like racing live. I suppose I get too serious. I take it too seriously, and like where people can just game and go ahead. Right, oh bollocks, I've got to, you know what I've got to do? I've got to shut that bloody music up. Right, good. Make sure I'm on the right screen. Just go to start. At least I'm in first person view. Oh, that's it. Get hit up the arse. Oh yeah, that's the one thing that really pisses me off. Oh shit. Oh no, am I in automatic? Damn, I'm in automatic. Oh no, I'm in automatic, man. Why am I in automatic? I can't ride in automatic. No, 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 no. Sorry. Options, control configuration. No, that's the wrong one. Back. Sorry, I cannot do that. Options. Where the hell do you change about? Oh no, it's you go to race, single race. Race settings. No. See how long it is since I really played this. Where is it? Where is it? Transmission. It says manual. So why was it changing gear for me? What the fuck? Excuse my French. It says manual transmission, yet it was changing gears for me. And maybe because someone hit me up the bottom. So I can go first neutral first. I felt that bugger, I felt him. Oh no, I've gone down already. This is not right. I think maybe too much Jackie. I'm really bad tonight. Oh, I'm really bad. What is wrong? Oh, wait a minute. What global am I on? Ooh. Okay, now this is the one thing I can do while I like it. On a straight. Oh, there's too much fog there. I'll go to another window. My thumb. Okay, I had it set up for MotoGP, so there's a difference between your steering setup for the game. What I'm doing is I'm going out to another window and actually going to X360 and try to get a steering better than it was, and it's set for MotoGP. So I had it set for MotoGP 3 and 5. Okay, so point being, I think I can show you that when that comes up, ow bollocks, where's it gone now? It's not allowing me to show X360 over the game, and now I've lost my X360. Son of a bitch. Anyhow, the steering settings for each racing game will be different. So you've got your anti-dead zone, and let me just do proceed. Your anti-dead zone and your center input sensitivity have to be adjusted for each game. So RIDE4 has got its own settings, MotoGP21 has got others, and I'd left it on MotoGP21 settings. So when I went to ride in RIDE4, the whole steering system was basically buggered. But now I tried to slide it over the top of the game, and the game's kind of swallowed it. I'm going to see if I can get it through tab. So let's see if I can get it. I think I can. Yes. So basically, here you've got your anti-dead zone. And the problem is when Milestone and all these companies make a program, they hard code it for gamepads. And because gamepads got this small amount of movement, they actually hard code a massive dead zone. So in order for you to use a steering wheel or say my controller, you need to make an anti-dead zone. Well, the anti-dead zone goes from different games. So RIDE4 has got a smaller one than MotoGP21. I've changed it from 5 to 3, but just those 2% is massive in feel. And the same with the sensitivity. So you've got right here at the top, that's your anti-dead zone, and then here is the sensitivity, and you can change to invert it. And in fact, that's where I had also an error. It was giving me less sensitivity. Now I've got more sensitivity because I've inverted it. So now it'll be even better. You can do that on the fly, but you need to do it with 2 screens. Or you can tab in, tab out. It's just better because you can actually have your bike rolling down the road while you're actually going on the other screen and adjusting it, and you can actually feel it and carry on riding. That's the beauty of the latest X360. The old one, you can't do that. You have to close it off. This is one of those things that's hard to explain. I'm doing my best, believe me. So, we got to the point where we kind of got a global one and the controller is not cut out. So RIDE4, you don't have to put it in the install folder for RIDE4. You can have it globally, but it still needs to have the INI file and the 2 DLLs. It only needs actually the 1.4, but to be on the safe side, I always pack the 1.3 because some only run on the 1.3. It could take hours to explain this. I'm trying to do it as quick as possible. Anyhow, so that's RIDE4 global. I'm going to drag it over because I'm not happy bunny right now. Get back to here, because I didn't realise I was less sensitive, and personal garage. I want to take my baby out. No, I don't want to quit the game. What the fuck? Oh, excuse my French. Bike and Rider. I go back. No, I don't want to quit the game. So, Bike and Rider. Personal garage. That's my bike. What am I supposed to do now? I'm totally lost now. Why can't I get out of here without it saying... Oh, now it's allowed me. Right, I want to get out of there. Oh no, I said that. No, I want to go back. I don't know why it kept asking me about the bloody game. Right. Yeah, it gets really kind of complicated sometimes with these Milestone games. They're really not solid in their build. And yeah, MotoGP21 sucks. I better get hit up the arse. I'm not happy with the steering. steering is sloppy. I'm not worried about that. I'm trying to look where my steering is right now. Right, you're going to have to forgive me. I forgot I'm on RIDE4 and not MotoGP. I'm going to restart it, but I need to go. Put it up to 4. Then we're going to restart. Yes. Start. Hope that's better. One thing is, when you're doing this, you've got to experiment. Like I said, I ain't riding to really race, but you've got to remember I'm using real handlebars, real throttle. I'm not doing the stupid little movements you're doing with the bloody gamepad. And I don't, because I'm using just a handlebar set, I don't actually have a rear brake. So I'm riding without a rear brake, which is really a bitch on some corners. Oh shit. I'm sorry for the amount of S's on that one. Oh, right up my bottom. That really hurt me. Actually, it's the one thing that I hate about RIDE4. It is actually brilliant graphically and bikes and... Oh no, I just lost it. I had no control. That's with global. Okay, so maybe I do have to put it in the folder. That was actually... Okay. That felt like it cut out. And this is what I'm trying to show people. But my testing yesterday in RIDE4, I could do it globally. I don't know what Windows is doing about it, and if it's a time limited to do with programs, or if there's certain things about it, I don't know. But coming around the last corner, steering just cut out. Right, well, I'll have to look into that one, but the solution would be to simply pack everything in the install folder, which is not a problem, which I'm now going to try and show with MotoGP21. So we're just... I hope you're trying to get the idea that it's not a simple process of just plugging a system in and it'll work with any game, because all these milestone games and even TT Isle of Man, even though Kiloton swore that they were making them for every controller, that's bollocks. Right, so now basically if I want to run MotoGP21 I'm now in the install folder, so or rather I'm not. So I have all my Steam games on my D drive. So most people are going to have somewhere on their drive called Steam Games, then under Steam Apps, and then Common, and then you'll have the install folder for that particular game. Well, for me it's MotoGP21, and then you'll find a subfolder with the same title, but it's always written in lowercase. So once again, we've got MotoGP21. Then you want to go to binaries. Go to binaries, you bugger. And then Win64. And in Win64, you'll see the main file you're using. And for a 64-bit computer, that's your main file. Now here I've got the exe, so the 4.17, the ini file, and the 2 DLLs that I always put in just as a safe precaution. So now I'm going to close this. So this is the one I was just using, which is global. It's the same program, but global. Now close it. Now I'm going to open the file that's actually in my MotoGP21 installation folder. And that's got all the same settings, except now, because I just edited for RIDE4, even though the global one is not the same exe file, Windows keeps that global settings. So I still have to now say, oh, bugger it, I'm now in MotoGP21. I've got to reset that. I think it was 9 and 5, I think, was my MotoGP21. So it might be wrong. But that's the only problem there is. It's always a global setting, no matter where you've got any of the... You can have 10 copies of the same exe. Windows keeps a global recognition of the adjustments, no matter what, which is pretty much a bitch. You can use the old version, and use the old version means you're using that particular one. It reads from an ini and not globally, and I'll show you that in a bit. This is why it is so complicated to work with x360ce for these new games, which won't accept the old one, and the old one cannot be left open for you to adjust when you're actually in a game. You have to close the game, open x360, adjust it, save it, shut it off, open the game, play the game, find out it's wrong, close the game, and vice versa. It's a bloody nightmare. So this way is the best way, but it's also still complicated. It's a bloody nightmare for me to try and explain. So now we have a non-global, game-specific exe open, and I'm going to put that to the side. I've now adjusted it to what I think worked for MotoGP21. I can always adjust it. And close this down, and we're going to actually start MotoGP21. Oh, and yesterday it took me 3 times to reinstall RIDE4 because an update from Milestone screwed my RIDE4. 3 times I had to bloody try and install it. And now I get a chance to bitch at Milestone for this MotoGP21 and the cock-ups they made. Sorry, but I've been actually kind of waiting for this. Right, so as you've seen, that's a new copy. I haven't programmed this to that copy. And this is where we'll get on in a bit. but it recognises my system. Right, so oh yeah, we'll just stay with hey. Fuck it. The one thing I love about the system, it's almost as simple as use. Well, it's actually easier to use than the gamepad.
Just a few minutes to go now, and the Moto2 class Austrian Grand Prix. Here we are live from the Moto2 class grid, where riders and engineers are talking over those last few details before the race.
I feel so sad for Sam in the last race. What a bitch! He's been doing so good as well. But, Baggy's, I really like the way Baggy's going at the moment. Bagnaia is just so good. And his race number, year I was born. He's got to win. Right, so, I mean, I totally admit, I've had some drink today, so I'm fucking not worrying about it. This is about me trying to show the differences in controllers, how to get somewhere. Right, bollocks, we're not going to worry about. I'm not on soft.
The riders have
right,
just completed
now,
their sighting lap and are lined up.
am I going to start off in third person or first person? I keep wanting first person. It keeps sticking me in freaking... Oh no, I'm actually in first. Yay! First time it's bloody bothered to do it. Now I'm not... This is not quite correct. Nah, steering's not spot on, but... Oh, nearly up your bum. It's a bit sloppy on the centre. So I do need to tune the steering, but more importantly, is it going to last for 3 rounds? Can I actually put up with the steering for 3 rounds? So it's kind of doing my head in. Why did I go down first? I'm not trying to fucking keep up with them. I'm trying to handle the steering. It's a bit sloppy in the centre. That's Chandra. Do you know what? I only got to do like 6 laps yesterday without the control cutting out. And most of the time, every road, Chandra was the one who knocked me off. And this whole thing about the bike recovery and the AI not having to do it, well, for me, I actually got knocked off by Chantra. Sorry, I was thinking about this. I got knocked off by Chantra and I had the bike recovery turned off. So I'm like, it's going to take him as much time as it's going to take me. You know what? I was still laying on the ground and I saw Chantra literally, it couldn't have been more than 2 seconds, and Chantra was already up and pulling away. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Sorry, I'm not even thinking about riding. But it really got me because the whole thing is about it's supposed to be a fair race, yet the AI get all these brakes. Why the fuck am I in second? I'm not even thinking about my gears, and I know the A1 so well. So literally, it was that corner that we just gone past, right? So I've gone down same time as the AI. He actually slid underneath me and knocked me off. And I'm like, see, if I had my foot controls, I could be changing gear and riding and not have a problem. But I've got to use my fingers at the moment because this system doesn't have foot controls. So it's like, can I do it with one hand? Yeah, okay. So in reality, it took me probably about 6 to 7 seconds from being knocked off, getting back up and getting on the bike, not being able to pull away. But the guy that knocked me off had got up within about 2 seconds. So how can they call it a fair game and even a simulation? See, now the thing is, a lot of it as well is with control like this. When you go from one game to the other, you've got to get used to how each game is when it comes to the actual steering and the input, how the brakes are, and you've got to get used to the speed. Basically it boils down to as well that, yeah, if I'm yakking away, I'm not really thinking about riding. And this is more to explain how to set the X360 up and get the most out of it. Now you see, the thing is, and actually I was thinking about next straight, so I wish I could actually do YouTube. I think you can. I can show 2 screens at the same time. So where I've got X360 up, but I can literally, like right now, I wasn't even thinking, sorry. Right, so if I line myself up, so now I could, oh bloody hell, I went across the line. I was going to let myself roll down the fucking track.
Thrilling race,
I could then actually go to the other program and change the
take a look at the Moto2 final
anti-dead zone on the fly and literally change it, then grab the handlebars and it would be different. And that's actually quite phenomenal. And you can actually use this for a gamepad. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. If you've got a gamepad and you want to get fine adjustment, you'll get more out of using X360 for a gamepad than you will just using a gamepad. But I hate gamepads. They've destroyed my life. Anyhow, so we got to a point where we got the basics, but now it comes to how do you make it that it will actually, yes, stop going off. So this is where we get to a bit of the nitty gritty. And you must be bored by now, but if you really want to learn this shit, then you're going to want to learn this shit. It's really that simple. Right, so back to downloads, X360. So when you extract the file that you can get from me, I've packed it in a certain way that you can use it whichever way you want to use it. You can either use it globally, you can copy and paste it, and then put it in an install folder. But in order to copy and paste it and get that INI correct, and this is the point, you need the old file, because the global X360 is not capable of saving an INI file. What you have to do is use an older version. That's why there's an X360ce old. So basically you'll go to the X360 old, you'll run the, I've got to turn this one off, shit, I hope I didn't upset it. I think I might have upset it. Right, so I turned the old one off. So this is now the old version. So if you want to be safe and ensure you've got a way of always being able to have the program to work, what you do is you go to the X360ce old folder, open the exe, and you'll get the same kind of display, and that's where you then record all your inputs. And if you remember, it's really simple. You want to program your A button, and it doesn't matter if you've got a steering wheel, a joystick, something you made yourself, like myself. I want to program button A. I click and press record, and then the button I want is A, I press. Boom, it's done. But the one difference with this compared to the global versions, so those that are above the 3 point whatever, anything that's 4 point whatever as a version number is basically global. Anything that is 3 point, like this one is 3.2.8.77, which is one of the best ever made. So I always keep it. And if you use this version, it allows you to save an INI. And you're only going to want to save the INI because I'm going to send you the DLLs. And you only need 1.3 and 1.4. For any milestone game, any bike game, any driving game, you only need 1.3 and 1.4 DLLs. So once you've got those, plus an INI file that has been saved for your calibration, for your setup, you save that. And then what you do is you copy, once you save those, okay, you close your program out, your temp will go off, and then you copy the INI, the 1.3 and the 1.4 DLL, you copy those, and you then go to your base folder where you've got the 4.17 exe version, and you paste the INI and the 2 DLLs in the same folder as the exe. And then wherever you put those 4 files, those are what you want to give you either a global or a stable installation folder setup. You have to figure it out for whatever game you're playing. Some will work globally without a problem. Some need to have it on the installation folder. You have to figure out which ones you want. Some don't need the INI or the DLL. It's all dependent on what program you're actually using. I hope that I managed to actually get it so that people understand it. But it is not directly straightforward. And it is a bit of a pain in the ass. So I think I've actually managed to somehow swear less than I normally do, and smoke less. I think I actually only smoked 2 cigarettes in that whole thing. And I don't know how long I've been going. and only not even a whole Jack Daniels. But I hope that's shown people the basics of setting up the Hs3 calibration, but that was also to do with the fact of you need to calibrate your system before you do x360ce. And basically in GPBikes, even though you calibrate it in Windows, whatever calibration it is, that will always stay the same for any other program. But in GPBikes, you can recalibrate it just for GPBikes in its own unit and change your braking points and the sharpness of the brakes. So there's a lot you can do with a system like this that you can't do with anything else. And using x360ce is not just good for people that don't have a gamepad. It will help a lot of gamepad users to get more control, but they don't kind of get it. I guess that's gamepad user mentality. Anyhow, people, I know it must have been long-winded, boring, and my riding was atrocious. But really, I just wanted to show the different points of how to use X360. And yeah, Harold, I can now pack your system. So I needed to do this for you too, mate. So everyone, thank you very much for watching. You look after yourselves, stay safe, think of other people, and yeah, I've got some two-stroke videos that I need to make soon, so I will be back pretty soon. I'll catch you on the flip side. Good night.